Well, hello and welcome again to another edition of The Overcomer, Gateway Counseling's video blog, and we're coming to you from Boynton Beach, Florida. And I'm your host, Dr. John Hawkins, the president of Gateway Counseling, and I'm so glad that you've taken the time to tune in and spend these next few minutes with us. We're going to try to cover some things that hopefully will be helpful to you in overcoming some of the challenges we all face in everyday life. So today I want to talk to you about a subject I'm sure we all can relate to, and that's the subject of stress. We live in a very stressful age, and it's something that creates a problem for many, many people. You know, a simple definition of stress is a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. What stress really is not as much the circumstance or situation, but our mental response to it, our emotional response to it, how we choose to deal with it. And so I want to talk to you today and focus in on how to deal with stress in a healthy way versus an unhealthy way. And first of all, it's wondering, how do I tell if I'm stressed? Because, you know, what we tend to do with stress is be in denial about it or minimize it, especially us as men, because we're supposed to be handling things. And quite often, I know I've experienced this in my own life where I'm stressed, maybe very significantly stressed, but I'm denying it. I'm saying, I'm not very stressed. You know, my wife can say, hey, I think you're stressed. Sometimes you can just tell by how I'm acting, like, no, I'm not stressed. You know, as men, we just kind of feel like I man up and push through. But in the article that I wrote, in the written part of the blog, The Overcomer, I give you some symptoms of stress. And you can go on there and check out that article. It has a little more details than what I'm giving here on the video blog. But, you know, there definitely are a number of physical symptoms, and stress, when it goes on long enough, can really have some very, very negative physical consequences, even life-threatening consequences, you know, in us. And so we don't want to cut our life short because of stress. You know, in 2005, I had a major heart attack. And that was quite a scare for me and for the family. And I had a hard time believing I had it. But on the day I was getting ready to leave the hospital, my cardiologist said to me, he said, now, I'm going to tell you your number one factor of you having another heart attack, what you have to look for and manage, is stress. And I thought, oh, wow, that's good news. That's what I deal with every day of my life, you know, is stress. Now, fortunately, that was 2005. And so it's been a number of years. I haven't had another heart attack, and I'm still alive. So I guess I've been able to deal with stress, but I haven't been able to eliminate it. I have definitely been able to tell times that I have been stressed. One of the problems with stress is it throws our body into fight or flight mode. And that's okay for short periods of time when we feel threatened and our life is at risk and we're pumping out adrenaline and cortisol, but our body is not designed to sustain that for long periods of time, because what it will do is it weakens our immune system. It creates a lot of inflammation in our body. And these are the major causes of disease, you know, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune diseases that can make people, you know, really sick or kill them. But then there's also mental, emotional symptoms, things like anxiety, depression, you know, just these feelings of sadness or panic attacks. So I want to make you aware, and if you go on the website and check out those things and just run through them and give yourself a little quiz and say, hey, do I see any of these things in my life? And then ask yourself, are there any stressors in my life? Could I be under stress and not realize it? You're going to look for, you know, pressure points. You're going to look for changes, losses, you know, and sometimes they can be smaller, but you add them all up and they can be creating some major stressors in your life. list them down on a sheet of paper. Don't minimize it. And you'll be surprised if you start listing some of those things, you'll realize that, wow, I think I'm under more stress than I realized. Now, if you want to Google stress, I forget exactly the name of it, but you know how they have these lists of number one stressor, and then the next stressor, like moving is a major stressor, loss of a loved one. And so they give points to those things. And you could take a list like that and go down through and look and just say, hey, are any of these active in my life? And kind of add those points up. That can give you a good idea of how much under stress you are. But let's talk a little bit about causes of stress in our society. Now, we could probably think of a lot of them, but what I did is, in my article, I just wrote down some bigger general causes that I see and deal with here in the Counseling Center. And you can probably have a lot of individual stressors in your life. You got a test you got to take tomorrow, or you're going to go out on a first date, or some other issue that would be normal to be stressed about. But I'm going to look at some big picture stressors. One of them that I see a lot is basically just the fast pace of modern life. I really believe we live at a pace that God never intended for us to live. You've had this experience. You go on vacation. First of all, it takes you 2 or 3 days to unwind, to feel like I'm actually on vacation. You're offloading the stress that you've been under at work. And to really maximize that, you want to unplug. Now, if you go and bring your laptop and your iPhone and you're constantly checking your email and your messages and all that, well, you're probably not going to de-stress. But, we often jokingly say, hey, by the time I start to feel like I'm really relaxed and on vacation, it's time to come back from it. Because it takes a while to get relaxed and get out from underneath that. And that's because we just pack so much into our life, particularly here in the U.S., because we almost see busyness and accomplishing a lot as a badge of honor. And we're proud of how we can multitask and get so many things done. But what we're doing is we're living at an unsustainable pace. This isn't how God designed us to live. Time is a finite quality. I mean, there are only 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 52 weeks in a year. Time is like a container. In other words, there's only so much you can put into the container. And we try to put more into it than realistically what that container will hold. And that'll create stress for us. I want to read you a scripture verse that has a good principle about time and a balanced life. In Psalm 90, verses 10 and 12, the psalmist said this: the years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80. Yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we all fly away. Well, we know that's true. Life goes by like that. So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. So that's pretty profound. What he's saying is we have a limited time on this earth. So he's saying, I need somebody to teach me how to manage or spend that time. Just like we have to learn how to budget money and spend money wisely, we have to learn how to do that with time. They're both resources, and they can be used wisely or they can be wasted. And really, time is a more valuable resource, because once we spend it, we can never create any more. We can create more money, but we can't create more time. So since I don't know how many days, I know I only have so many, then I want to be wise in how I use them. So I don't want to let the culture dictate my pace of life and how I spend that. That's why we're often sometimes concerned about, the balance of, professional life and, personal life. So that's one area to be aware of. This overstressed, fast-paced life, feeling like you're on the rat race. You're on the treadmill, that you just can't get off of it. Another common cause of stress is simply what I call is materialism. Materialism basically is looking for a meaning of life through accumulating of possessions and material things. Now, we are made material beings, and so we need things. We need food, clothing, shelter. Those are all things that we need. But when I look to find the meaning for my life in those things, that's when I'm going to get out of balance. Because like Jesus said, the meaning of life is not in things. It's not in food. Man doesn't live by bread alone. In other words, what he was saying is it's not the stuff that gives our life meaning and purpose. So what we do is we fall into this trap of I'm working more so I can have more money to buy more stuff to impress people that really aren't important to me, and that all creates more stress in my life. Because now I'm working more, get more money, have more stuff, and I don't have time to enjoy the stuff. Because now the more stuff I get, the more stuff I have to take care of, which creates more stress. And then one of these days I die and leave all that stuff for somebody else. And a lot of times I never even got to use it or do very much with it. Down here in Florida, we'll see people that buy multi-million-dollar yachts, and maybe they use it a week out of the year or 2 weeks out of the year. And besides the cost of the yacht, they got the cost of maintaining it. I bet maybe $200,000-300,000 a year. They've got to pay for a crew, and most of the time, all this money is going in to maintaining it and having the crew and doing all that, and they don't really use it that much. So many folks to be able to go on it and relax. And so the really important thing is spending time with people that I really care about, not all the stuff that I accumulate. So we got to watch out for materialism, because it is definitely a big creator of stress. And then another cause is the lack of balance in life. There's a big difference between running a 100-yard dash and a marathon. And if you try to run a marathon at the same speed you run a 100-yard dash, you never finish the race, because you're running at a pace that's not sustainable. You can sustain it for 100 yards, but you can't sustain it for 26 plus miles. So sometimes we maybe overcommit, and we're running at a pace that we can handle for a short period of time, but we can't do it for our whole life. And so what we have to do is find a rhythm of life that's sustainable. And so we ask ourselves the question, can I do this for the rest of my life? If I can't, I have an unsustainable pace. And that's what I need to do. I need to develop a balanced life based on my priorities, the importance over the urgent. What are my values? What are my goals? What do I consider a life well lived? And I've got, again, in the article on the website, a list of different areas that make up our life. Many times we just think of like my career, business, work that I do, or maybe we think of the family. But there's a number of areas that make up our life and a life well lived. Let me encourage you to go on and look at those things and see if you've thought about those, and you may have other areas that you want to add to it, make a part of it, and consider these are all the areas that I need to balance. Now, it can get a little overwhelming when you look at a long list of things to balance, but keep this in mind. It's not giving equal time to each item. That's not realistic or doable. It's giving the appropriate time to each item. And it doesn't mean you're going to do everything each day or even each week. A sustainable, balanced life is something you're doing over a period of time. Everything doesn't need to be done at the same time. And we have different seasons of life that we go through. And as we go through different seasons, that sometimes changes the priorities and where we're spending more time or less time based on what season we're in regard to certain areas. So that's something we need to get under control. And then kind of the last major area of stress that I've got in the article is burnout. Now, we hear a lot of talk through the years of burnout, but really what burnout is, it's an emotional, physical, mental exhaustion. It's where I've come to a place because of excessive and prolonged stress. I feel totally overwhelmed, emotionally drained, exhausted, unable to any longer meet the consistent demands of my life. And once again, I give you a list of symptoms of burnout that you can go on there and take a look at and see if you find yourself in some of those. But it's the idea like, I just want out. I just want to look for a way to escape this whole mess that I'm in. And so first thing we look at is, well, what can I cut out of my life? What can I cut out to try to get a more balanced life? And many times people will just look at their life and say, there's nothing I can cut out. There's absolutely nothing I can cut out. So I just keep going at the same pace. But eventually my body will tell me, you're done. My body will tell me you're in burnout because it will shut down because all my resources are used up. The battery is dead. I have no more energy for anything, no matter how hard I try. And you don't really want to get to that place because it can take months to recover. So think about that. You may think you're being productive by, going 100 miles an hour, but now you're sidelined for months and you're not being productive, you're not doing anything, you're very fragile, and you're not really sure when you're going to be able to, get back in and running the race. So it's better in the long run to be more productive by just developing that sustainable pace. So let me give you a couple thoughts on dealing with stress. Now, we all know there's unhealthy ways to deal with it. People use substances, alcohol, drug, sex, shopping, overeating, obsessive behaviors. You could add a lot of things to that list because they're just trying to escape. And obviously, none of those things are good coping mechanisms for stress. But if you get rid of those things, especially if you're using some of them, you got to replace them with something. So let me give you some healthy ways to deal with stress. One is to develop what I call weekly Sabbath. Now, people think in regard to that, like going to church. I'm not talking so much here about going to church. What I'm talking about is having a day or even a part of a day where you only do what you enjoy. You only do what relaxes you. You're not doing work like for your job. You're not doing work for projects around the house or the honey-do list. You're focusing on things that you just do for pleasure, enjoyment, and relaxation. That will go a long way to de-stress you. Another way to deal with it is meditation or prayer. Now, there's different kinds of meditation. Personally, I like to meditate on Scripture because these meditative thoughts are basically where you're recognizing what I can control and not control. And what I can't control, I'm just going to hand that off to God because there's nothing I can do. No matter how stressed I get, it won't make any difference. And this helps as you're focusing on those positive thoughts and getting rid of the negative. It helps center you more into the present, into the daily living. And then, of course, there's the basics. Proper sleep, solid 7 to 8 hours a night, proper diet, proper exercise, even it's as simple as walking. All of that will help you deal with stress. And then there's setting realistic goals. At the end of your day, if you review to see what did I get accomplished today versus what did I not get accomplished. The truth is if it didn't get done today, it didn't need to get done today. So you look at what absolutely positively has to get done today. And, if you get that done, then it was a successful day. So focus on what you got accomplished. Another thing I like is develop what I call a thankfulness or gratitude journal. And Write down things that you're thankful for, you're grateful for, and on a regular basis, you're adding to it. You're reading, you're refreshing that in your mind, and you're going to find that that will de-stress you. And lastly, build meaningful, healthy, positive relationships. Spending time with people that you enjoy and refresh your soul. Don't spend all the time with the energy suckers, the people that are negative, the people that bring you down. Focus on people that re-energize and lift you up. So here's just a few things. You might be able to add some more to it, but hopefully these will help you in dealing with stress. And that I hope that if you find some benefit and relief, you'll email me, kind of let me know if this has been a help. You can go on gatewaycounseling.com to send me an email, or john@gatewaycounseling.com. And just remember, it is possible to overcome stress and not let it overcome you. Well, I hope you have a good rest of the day, rest of the week, and I'll look forward to talking with you again down the road here on another Overcomer broadcast. Goodbye, and God bless you now.